Hello Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here and welcome to the channel. And welcome to another episode of My Collecting Life, the series where I get to speak to you, members of the toy collecting community, about your own personal collections, finding out what got you into collecting in the first place and what gives you that toy collecting buzz. All right, you lot. So what we got on tonight's episode then? Well, I tell you what, why don't you calm yourselves down before you cause yourselves a mischief? And while you're doing that, let's take the butchers at some of his collection in a musical montage. Okay, guys, yet again, another fantastic collection, and I'm really looking forward to this chat. It is my pleasure to welcome LAK Sivrak to the channel. Hello, sir.
Hello, Stu. How are you, my friend? How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Nothing but marvelous here on the mothership. Nothing but marvelous.
I'm liking the sound of that. Listen, again, thank you so much for taking time out to do this. Absolutely amazing, and really looking forward to chatting to you. So, I'm guessing you've seen the show or some of the series
Oh yeah, absolutely,
or the episodes. Yeah.
absolutely. And I certainly appreciate you asking me. It's a real honor and a
No,
real pleasure.
no, not at all, my friend. Not at all. I love chatting to people, and I'm looking forward to chatting to you. So, run of the mill, we've got 10 questions for you. Take your time answering them. One time's roughly about an hour. Doesn't matter if we go over. So, shall we crack on?
I am ready, sir.
You're ready. I'm liking that. Okay, first question. What are your childhood memories and what toy lines were you into?
Oh wow, childhood memories as far as toy lines. I didn't have a whole lot of store-bought toys. The first toys I ever owned were hand-me-downs. They were Playmobil. And I still have quite a few of those. Um, and the first toy, and I'm still a big fan of Playmobil.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the first store-bought toy that I remember that was bought for me, I was probably about 10. And of course, I was born in '86, the year of the tiger. So 10 years old. That was when the special editions were coming back out, right?
Okay.
So definitely Star Wars. Star Wars Power of the Force 2. That was the first
Oh,
real
okay. Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Because I had hand-me-down stuff up until about that year,
Okay.
you know, until I was about 10. So that
Was
was the
that
first
was that
thing.
from like brothers, or was that from like friends or family, or who? You say hand me down.
Family.
From
As far as I know, it would have probably been family. Um, but at a certain age, you don't really know
that's it. Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I didn't ask. I was raised in Alaska. I have brothers and sisters, but they're quite a bit older than me, so I was raised,
Okay.
as an only child, I guess, if that makes
Mm,
sense. So I'm
yeah.
sure they were left over from them, but everybody has cousins, and
Oh yeah. Sure.
you know. So, but the first store-bought thing I remember, saying, "Wow, I sure would like that." Whether it was a birthday or whatever it was, man, I sure would like to have that. Uh, and it was under the Christmas tree or at the birthday cake
Yeah.
or whatever it was. So, that's really my big, and I have small memories because, like I said, everything I had was hand me down. So, I have an affinity for Dick Tracy figures, because
Okay.
I have an affinity for Dick Tracy figures and that movie and Dick Tracy. Um,
Oh, what, the one with Warren Beatty and Madonna? That one.
yeah, well, really all of them. I'm
Okay.
even the serials from the 30s, which I don't know his name. But and then of course one of the 90s with who's that? Warren Beatty.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
Awesome.
Did I get that right? Warren Beatty. There's
It
another
is Warren
Warren.
Beatty. Yeah.
Oh, there's
Yeah.
Ned Beatty, right? Who was in
Ned Beatty.
Deliverance.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to
That's
get
it.
those
Yeah.
mixed up. I used to get them mixed up when I was a kid, and people say, "No, that's not right." But
Oh,
now I
just to
always
say,
double check.
what a film that was, by the way, Deliverance. What a film that was. Awesome
Oh
film.
man, wasn't that's some real shit?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That
was
was
raised
awesome.
in Alaska for since the age of 5, and
Okay.
I lived what they call subsistence,
Yeah.
mostly with my at that time adopted grandfather, and then after that, I lived in the what they call the village, and which is all fairly. I didn't know it then, but it's all fairly rough, you
Yeah.
know. So stuff like that, I have an affinity for because of that too. Not
Yeah. Yeah.
necessarily the rape, the rape is
Yeah.
on,
Yeah. Yeah. I know what
but
you mean.
different,
Yeah. Yeah.
mountain people and people not,
Yeah.
you're not from here, and
Mm.
there's a lot of truth to a lot of that stuff. The series Deadwood is my favorite, you know,
Okay.
and it has that same kind of thing. People,
Yeah.
there's nothing keeping you and me civil except our own morals, right? Because
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah.
there's no quote, there's no society, there's no police, nobody's calling anybody. It's not the
Wow.
playground. You know, so
Mm.
stuff really means something.
Yeah.
It really does mean a lot.
Mm.
Uh, so I have an affinity for things like that. But it's toy wise though, like I said, a lot of hand me downs. GI
Mm.
Joe, I had a few GI Joes. I'm
Yeah.
slowly trying to remember and get the ones that I had as a kid. Right, I had no idea what GI Joe cartoon was. They didn't have. We had a TV channel called ARCS, and I have no idea what that
Okay.
stands for. I have no idea what that
Mm.
stands for. But I heard somebody in your neck of the woods explaining a television pro station, and it sounded similar. ARCS was a station. It was only one channel, and you could flip all your stations as all snow. But there's one place.
Okay.
It's one place called ARCS, and
Right.
ARCS was an unprogrammed, constant stream of shows and commercials from all various broadcasting networks, I guess they call
Yeah.
them. And I don't know how they did it, but we always thought, it was a guy in a room and he was changing the channel because that's what it was like. You'd be watching
Wow.
something and the climax would happen or something, and then it would switch to the middle of another show.
Oh wow.
And you'd think, oh shit, okay, well,
Wow.
we're watching this. That's cool.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I remember that. Now if you were that was in the village, they
Mm.
have real towns up there where they have 4 or 5 channels if you have nice rabbit ears. So
Yeah.
that it was. it was different, you know.
Yeah.
And I never played with toys. I look at as far as toys. When I was real little, I played with my hand-me-downs up to about 6, you know, and then
Mm.
we moved to Alaska and you know, lived in the woods and did different stuff like that. And playing with toys wasn't a huge thing
Yeah.
necessarily, but if I had a place to keep them, I always had them out and I had them
Mm.
displayed, you know, and all the other
Yeah.
people thought I was strange because they thought I should be out there in the sandbox banging them together, you know. And I just said, when I was a kid, I thought at one point I'd work at a like make the little dioramas at the museum,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, because that's what we all do
Yeah.
with our figures, you know, or at least as adults. I don't know how many of us did it as kids, but I never really banged my ships together, right? I had my area, and they
Hmm.
all were in their battle or whatever they were doing, and that would stay up for a couple weeks, and one day you'd think, oh,
Mm.
you get a new idea, and you'd switch them around, you know, and you'd appreciate it. I was a big Civil War buff when I was a kid. American Civil
Okay.
War.
Oh wow.
Uh,
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting.
you know, I don't know what I don't know what people in other country call that. The war against Northern aggression. No, that's a joke. I don't know what people in England would call that, but the American Civil War.
Well, we just call it the American Civil War. Yeah.
Is that, yeah? That would make sense. I don't know. A lot of people
North and
have
South.
different North and
Mm.
South. Yeah, that was always
Yeah.
interesting to me as a kid, especially being raised most of my life in Alaska and never having any kind of you know, everybody has an opinion or a family member, what, you know, whatever. And
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
like to read the books because it was very interesting, you know,
Mm.
very, very interesting. And also the Playmobil hand-me-downs were a lot of American Civil War. So that
Yeah.
all coincide, you know, for like a 4, 5, 6 year old, that was magic, you know,
Yeah.
I
I'm
thought,
sure. Yeah.
you know, I
Yeah.
thought it was. Also the I don't know if you remember them, they still make them, I think, but they're made in China. The Britons. I used to have so many, and through the years, remember
Oh,
these
hang on a second.
Brit?
Let's get you on there. Look at that.
I don't know how to make it
Oh
focus.
wow.
I'm like you. I'm all new. I see people they do
Yeah.
this and this. I see them
Yeah.
do this. What do I know? Oh, my hand's not even on it. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
I only
Awesome.
have a few of these. I used to have like a man. I used to have so many, and through the years, and you know, house fires and hurricanes. My folks moved to Florida at one point, and I lived and I
Okay.
couldn't be bothered to leave Alaska.
Yeah.
You know, I was kind of a young man, and I was free and all that kind of good stuff. But I gave him all my stuff. I said, "Here, if you want to leave and go," I said, "Go put this in a storage unit," and you know, because I was
Mm.
prepared to go back to the wilderness. You know, I was kind of in a mode, which I've done quite a
Mm.
few times in my life. Right? We've all done that. I don't know if everybody's done that. Um, you know, has sometimes you put it all in a pile and you burn it and you walk away. I don't know.
Yeah.
I used to think that was fairly normal. As I'm getting older and having children and stuff, I think maybe whoever taught me that was mistaken in the, you know, but long story short, I only have a few Britons left, I guess, you know.
Okay. Are they
But I
die
love these
cast?
things. The older ones, uh, the bases were.
Yeah.
And I think the soldiers of the Britons, now maybe way before my time the soldiers were, but all the
Yeah.
ones I've ever had, the bases changed because
Okay.
they're like a rubber, kind of like the old Willow figures, right? They're some sort of rubbery thing that is
Okay.
then cast, and then it's plugged into this base, right?
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
And I've never seen them not like that. Now this is made in
Wow.
England. This one's
Okay.
made in England in 1971, and it's,
Wow.
you know, and it's got a heavier base. The bottom of it
Mm.
looks like you know, galvanized aluminum or something, but it
Yeah.
has weight. And then I have some other ones that say China that are almost
Okay.
identical, except they're not quite as heavy, and they say China.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
We used to have those. I remember those in the UK. Not those ones in
uh,
particular, but they used to have the knights, and they used to have
yeah,
the horses up on the hind legs and stuff like that with the knight on them, and
yeah.
you had
I had some.
absolutely,
Those were
yeah, yeah,
brilliant. Yeah, they
yeah,
had.
yeah.
Oh man, and the horses had the feathers and the
That's
I don't
it.
even know
Yeah.
what you call that. I've ridden horses, but we don't have that on our horses. You know, the
Plumes? Do
big,
they put plumes or
yeah,
are they
plumes,
plumes?
and then
Or so, yeah, yeah.
the cape or whatever that has all the colors
That's
on
it.
it that
Yeah.
goes over them.
Yeah.
Wow, I have none of those left. I have a few Confederate soldiers because
Okay.
over the
Yeah.
years when things went south,
Mm,
I better get this, and then a lot of cool shit just left.
mm,
But yeah, the
mm.
knights were awesome, and then
They were sweet.
they had the willow figures that were almost identical as far as scale, and they had the same bases, right? So you could get your knights and all your different guys, and they could fight the willow. Now the willow had two scales, and the
Okay.
smaller scale I would play with those Britons. I think maybe willow was a little bigger, but they were close enough, for a kid.
Mm,
But
awesome.
yeah, the knights. There was a gold knight on a horse, and he had the jousting helmet that was round. I don't know.
That's yeah.
Scholar Gladiatoria could tell you who could be your. Do you follow him? He's a local.
No, no.
What if you don't? Well, we'll talk later. But
Yeah.
Scholar Gladiatoria, he has a great channel, and
Awesome.
he don't mind saying. But like I think he lives in London.
Okay.
And he teaches HEMA. I'm not trying to do a commercial for the guy, but anyway, you and him could be brothers. I don't know. You guys look a lot alike. Scary
So,
looking, bald British guys. You know.
oh, come on. I'm not
No,
scary. What are you talking
not
about? Come
scary
on,
in
man.
a not scary in a mean. But like if you were mean mugging me in a bar, I would think, wow, this could maybe go either way. You
Nah.
never know. Of course,
No,
you
no,
should
no, no,
always
no,
think
no,
that.
no.
You should
Eh?
always think that. You should
What,
always think
bald
that.
people?
Maybe is that why we all
Awesome.
look like that? Is that why we
I
all
have
look
no
like that?
idea. God knows. I don't know, mate. I don't know.
Working class?
Yeah.
Do you
So,
go to the bar and drink water?
do I
Because
go?
that's the
No, no. That's not
because
my.
that's the
That's not
guy
my
you have
tipple.
to
That's not my
watch.
tipple. That's not my
Oh yeah,
tipple.
yeah.
I have an orange juice and lemonade.
Oh, God bless you.
I'm, I'm,
Well,
I'm not a
anybody,
big drinker. I'm not a big
that's
drinker.
good. Yeah.
I'm not a big drinker.
Well, me
I've got
neither
my.
these
I've got.
days.
Got to look after my figure. Do you know what I'm saying? When I was
Yeah,
younger, I used to have a 6-pack, but now it's more like a beer keg.
like a
But no,
kid, like the
it's all
whole
the food.
bar. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
serve food
Right.
there after 10. I get that. We all
So,
used
what
to
was
be
your
lean and
favourite toy
mean.
line? We
Oh,
all
my
used to be lean and
favorite.
mean. Definitely.
They
I,
all used to be.
I'm assuming it's going to be Playmobil, right?
It always changes. Recently it's been, and it also changes over the years, right? But maybe right now it's Star Wars.
Okay.
And as far as line, there's a lot of different stuff. I guess you'd have to say. I hate to
Mm,
just say, oh, Star Wars is number one. Star Wars is number one if we're talking about shit like that.
yeah.
Uh, but man, but yeah, I like to do a lot of custom stuff, and I do that to mostly
I've
Star Wars.
I saw that in your pictures, and that was going to be one of the questions. One of my next questions. What got you into customizing? Because at an early age, when I collected figures, I'd never dreamt of breaking the figure and putting him onto a different part and making new figures. I just wondered what got you into that. What gave you
W-
the
Um,
inspiration?
Well, the first toys, like I said, the first toys I ever had that were store bought, and I don't know how many, you don't hear that word. You don't hear anybody use that in a context anymore. But the first toys I had were hand-me-downs, right? So
Yeah.
everything else was made, whether it was my grandfather made it, but it was usually made out of wood or something. I
Mm,
used to have my first toy ever that I figured was my first toy, and it was a beaver. I don't have it anymore. I can't find it, but it was a hip bone. If you can think back to biology, it was the hip bone
okay.
uh, of a beaver. Okay,
All
an
right.
Alaskan, right? And so the hip bone has a circle in it,
Yep.
right? And then it has the first whatever bone down to the top of your kneecap, whatever that's called. The hind quarter, right? Top end of the hind
Yep.
quarter. We butcher meat where I'm from, so that's what I don't know what people call it, but that's what so you have that. Then you have this lower half of the leg, right? I think it was the lower
Mm,
half. It might even have been the forearm bone, right? But it's the other bone of the beaver, and
yeah.
you have that on a string, and they're
Hmm.
tied to each other, and and you would flip the one into the circle
Oh,
of the
okay.
other, right?
Yeah.
So that was my first toy, and little wooden
Wow.
boats on strings,
Yeah.
and we had spears, man. Spears was the big thing, and we'd go try to kill grouse and stuff,
Mm.
and then so we did a lot of that. So favorite toy, so customizing I think comes from that in a way,
Okay.
like it was kind of second nature. And then the other thing I always remember customizing was the movie Toy Story. That the neighbor kid who blew his toys up,
Oh, damn. Sid.
Sid. Sid. Okay, so
Sid.
he blew some of his toys up, and that when Han was in carbonite, right? Did we not all freeze Han in a block of ice or something in the freezer?
Well, yes, we did. Yeah.
We did. Did we not all maybe silly putty? I remember doing some, or like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle slime would get hard, right? And like all that
Yeah.
shit was used for Han or some other character entrapped in something.
Yeah.
So that's a kind of customization.
Well, this is
And of
true.
course, yeah.
Yeah.
So I always make a joke now that Sid was just a misunderstood customizer.
There's one way of looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah, or a kit basher or whatever you want to call them. So I don't know. It's a lot of maybe second nature, and I think a lot of us did that without thinking that we did it. Like I said, we
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
put Han in a block of ice in the freezer, that
Mm.
Tupperware or something clear, and we thought that was hot shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know, I did. Um, because vintage toys were
Awesome.
not, vintage Star Wars. I have a small set that I think came from one of my sisters. Now, I have never talked to her about it, but I've kept them, and they're all in good
Okay.
nick, as y'all would say.
So you've
Uh,
kept a lot of your childhood toys then?
oh yeah, there's very
Yeah.
few. There's very few because I remember there being more, like the knights we were talking about. Same with
Yeah.
Playmobil. Playmobil had pirates and knights, and at one
That's it.
point in my life, I had a lot of that.
Mm.
I had quite a bit of that. Most of it, like I said, hand-me-downs. Probably nothing newer than maybe '96.
Okay.
As far as Playmobil,
Mm.
but man, that Power of the Force 2, starting in '96, and the
Mm.
Power of the Jedi and all that shit, man, that was gold. And it was affordable, and
Yeah,
you
it
could
was.
cut it,
Yeah.
you could,
Yeah.
yeah, and even now it's not as affordable now, even, as much as
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
dog it or whatever, but
Mm.
I guess it's still cheaper than most of the stuff people do collect. A lot,
Yeah.
whether it's new modern quote vintage collection or a collection
Mm.
of vintage figures, however they however you word that, I don't know.
Yeah. Prices have certainly gone up, haven't they?
Holy shit! Before they went up. Hold on, can you still hear me? I had a slip
I
there.
can still hear you, man. I can still hear
Okay,
you.
good. Um, yeah, before they were up, I thought they were high because I get
Yeah.
real I don't. If all of my investments of my money were on a pie graph, right?
Yeah.
I have to admit that the the replenishing and adding new things to the collection, it was probably almost an invisible sliver, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. You
Mm.
know, and I mean you can probably see it in the right light, because I do it, and then most of it is of that recently has definitely been in the custom, you know
Mm.
if so, if let's say if somebody if if you go and spend $100 solely on figures or collection things, or this
Yeah.
genre that we're speaking of, at least 50% of it has to be something that I think, okay, we're going to open this up because that chest and those arms and that, and this is going to be cool, and then
Is
the
that how
other
you? Is
stuff.
that how you look at it?
Not all of it, but a percentage
Yeah.
of it, yeah. But a
Okay, that's
percentage of it.
interesting. That's
And
interesting.
then there's other stuff that I really like. I like the
Mm.
Playmobil. There's Playmobiles that I love, and I remember, and the ones, of course, that I didn't have, and ones, of course, I had that I don't have
Yeah.
now. And I want two
Mm.
of those, right? Like classic collecting. I want two. I
Yeah.
want open ones on the shelf. I want the box framed, and then I want one
Yeah.
unopened behind it. But
Mm.
but that's not every Playmobil. That's kind of the difference between me and maybe not everybody, but a lot of people.
Mm.
There's certain ones, because a long time ago I've had to accept whether it's like house fires or when my folks moved to Florida and they had a bunch of my stuff, a hurricane blew their house
Wow.
away.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
and they said, hey, well, all your shit's gone. And I went,
Oh man.
wow. Yeah, I said, but yeah, it's a bummer. But,
Yeah.
I kept a lot of that. The only soreness ever about it was is that I tried so hard to keep that stuff safe. Because growing up
Yeah.
in the woods and stuff, like you turn the canoe over in Alaska,
Mm.
87 miles from the nearest highway, you have to, you have to be prepared for loss. You have to know what's in your pocket. You have to think like that. If this canoe tips
Mm.
over right now, what's in my pocket? What's going to
Yeah.
happen to this, like a rifle, for instance, right? You need to hunt food. What's going to happen to my rifle? Oh, well, it's probably going to sink to the bottom of this lake.
Yeah.
Then what am I going to do? Well, a lot of people tie something like a gas can to it with a long rope. So when you do tip
Yeah.
over, there's something out there floating, and you go, oh shit,
Yeah.
okay, there's my rifle. But a lot of people don't, right? Because there's a
Yeah.
lot of beer stories telling you about how, oh, I lost my grandpappy's rifle, or and it's at the bottom of that lake, and you think, wow, nobody ever taught you how to do it,
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
you know.
Wows.
So
Wows.
losing stuff, I think, has to be an obvious, uh, way of life, whether it's your
Mm.
collection or just whatever.
Yeah.
Ain't
Yeah.
ain't nothing gonna make it out of this world alive, right? So,
No, that's it. That's it. So
yeah.
when did you realise you were a collector then? Was it just like when you grew up and got older
When
that you
did
started
I?
get back into it again, or
A collector of toys, I'm not sure. I've always been, ever since a child, I have considered myself of a lot of things, right? Whether it's like
yeah.
edged weapons or
Okay, yeah, I
or
noticed those on the wall, yeah.
yeah, or in different kinds, right? Or whether, like earlier I said I was a Civil War buff. I
Yeah.
don't. I think by my age I might be an aficionado because I have read everything that I have knowledge of access to
Mm.
almost of all time in my life in my
Yeah.
life, and I enjoy it, and then you hunger for it. And I do that with a lot of different stuff. I have that kind of personality.
Yeah.
You attack which is very again, that's very like how we all used to live, right? There's seasons for things, and you do that,
Mm.
and you focus, and you hit it hard because winter's coming or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And that's how we all, as a people, lived.
Mm.
Uh, and people still live like that in not in most societies, but people still live like that. And that's how I was raised. So I get that's collector. What would you call that? That's savvy to a collector. You focus and you read everything. You read every book,
Yeah.
and you can quote every line, and you know every character. They go, "Oh, who was
So
that?" And you go, "Oh, that's so and so." But
so
when
you would say you collect knowledge. You collect knowledge.
I
Is
collect,
that what
I
you're
love
saying?
to collect knowledge, but I will never tell. I love. That's all you have, baby. That's all
Yeah.
you got.
Mm.
That's all you
Yeah.
got, and all you can pass on.
Mm.
That's all you can pass on when you're gone too, right? Like when the day comes, right? All the coolest thing when I was ever a kid is if somebody said, "Hey, Stu, man, I knew this cat named LAK Sivrak. That's not my real name, by the way." But they say,
Yeah.
"Hey, I knew this cat named LAK Sivrak. He was the coolest, baddest motherfucker I ever met. And he was kind and helped old ladies across the street and could beat up 10 people. Like that's all you got when you're
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
And people want to you can put up your monuments or your gravestone, which is cool. I used to be a grave digger and a crypt keeper, so I understand that
Wow.
too. So people put those
Wow.
things up.
Mm.
People put those things up to mimic that same thing, right? But all you really have is if you, as a person, right? Somebody, if I go to my kids and I say, "Hey, Junior, I knew this cat named Stu. Let me tell you about him. You know,
Yeah.
and like,
Awesome.
man, that's the coolest. You know, as human beings, I that's the coolest shit ever.
Mm,
You know,
mm.
um, so I
So
don't know.
with your with your swords in the background, what?
These
So tell us
swords,
about your swords. Yeah, yeah. Where are they from?
these
Where
are
do they originate from?
some cold steel products, which these are just a few. I just moved recently from Alaska to Florida, and so a lot of my stuff
Okay.
is not out. But so these are some of my cold steel swords. I went through a huge phase of edge weapons, right?
Yeah.
I'm a big firearms guy also, uh,
Okay.
and so being part of it, I'm a machinist. I've built them. I'm a gunsmith by
Okay.
trade.
Wow.
uh, CNC machining, manual machining. I'm in
Mm.
right. So, but so and hunting and all that stuff growing up. But so come with that comes the evolution of edged weapons and spears and swords and
Yeah. Yeah.
just going through the thing. And so there was a period where I spent my extra money on cold steel swords, which I'm not trying to do a commercial for them either. But hey, if you want a sword that you can beat the shit out of, and when you run out of ammunition, Scholar
Yeah.
Gladiatoria, the guy I talked about earlier, he's actually a dealer for antique swords,
Okay.
mostly, and go with those if it's not much money in the difference. But if you want to go whack a bunch of 2x4s and beat the jungle down while you're on your walk, get one of these because you won't feel bad if it gets loose. You can just tighten it up. But
Okay.
the price isn't much different. I have a few
Yeah.
antique swords that I inherited from a grandfather that I didn't know that well,
Mm.
who was not part of my subsistence Alaskan, Davy Crockett Bushman life.
Yeah.
Uh, but just so stuff like that, I've always been a collector. I definitely antique arms is probably the first thing I ever collected as a child.
Okay. What, like muskets and stuff like that from the
Yeah,
those?
muskets.
Yeah.
My first things were probably like because we lived in the village and stuff like that. A lot of that's where you find antiques, but they're not
Yeah.
antiques to us. That's my granddad's whatever, and he
Yeah.
used it, and that's all we have, and that's what we
Mm.
use. So to cross knowledge of you think, oh, actually this thing is a 1895 Winchester made in America that was then sold to the Russian military as a contract, and you think, wow,
Yeah.
this thing,
Yeah.
people would pay $17,000 for this, and we just paddled our canoe with it because this
Okay.
is because this was
Mm.
granddad's, and he probably killed some Russian for it in Alaska. Who knows? No
Yeah.
offense to
Yeah.
any Russian people, and I'm just saying that's the how shit. That's how these antiques happen.
Yeah.
And it always starts off with some that's just grandmother's chair, or and it's a $20,000 Windsor chair.
Mm.
I know I'm a very eclectic collector, as you can tell. I've read all the
Yeah. No,
books.
that's all good.
I grew up with no power, no electricity. We had up and for a certain period of my life, and
Mm.
when I got older and was educated, and the United States government decided I didn't have to, appease their schooling or whatever they had me to do, then
Mm.
I went back. I went back to that type of life because I loved it,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah.
And so those years I wasn't if anything, I collected different types of stuff, right? Like I had
Mm.
my trap collection, and I had my reloading stuff, and I could tell you every kind of rope, and how to make every knot because that's what was needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but
Awesome.
anytime that I'm in, I guess what you'd call modern society,
Mm.
American society, the collection comes out, the computer comes out, and I try to connect with people who have some sort of general interest that I also have.
Mm. So,
Yeah.
what lines do you collect at the moment? Then, do you? I mean, I guess
I
you still collect toys? Are you still
Yeah,
toy collecting or?
absolutely, absolutely. I hunt, I scout. Everybody goes on hunting trips. You never say you go for you don't want to go hunting because they'll hear you. You just want to go for a walk. Go look around. know,
Yeah.
and the natives will tell you that, never point it. So, and also if you go hunting, you're expected to bring something back, and won't you look foolish if you go hunting and you come back with nothing? That's just an old, that's just an old Yupik Eskimo and Alaskan, you
Okay.
know, uh,
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
a proverb. But yeah, I actively look for, and most of the time buy, right? Because you always have that 30-minute conversation with yourself, and you go, no, I'm not going to do it. But definitely Star Wars, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Dick Tracy.
Mm.
I have to look because sometimes I forget. The other day, even I went, oh wait, hey, here's this thing right here. Those are probably my biggest ones that I actively look for.
Yeah.
Playmobil. I'm always looking for American Civil War soldiers or any soldiers of that era. Let's
Yeah.
say 1700s to not to
Mm.
right before World War I, right, where everybody's still wearing
Wow.
kepis and there might
Yeah.
be a sword involved. Awesome, awesome era in all of civilization for all sorts of reasons.
Yeah.
Amazing. Um, my new love, because of everybody's into sideshow, you know,
Yeah.
and my new love, which I have not purchased or pulled the trigger because, of course, there's a little box that I put money in every time, and I go, okay, this is for that. But so I want the John Wayne sideshow
Oh,
figures.
okay. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Star Wars ones are cool,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm not huge into. I don't want people to hate me, but like I watched X-Men, I remember that as a kid and different stuff like
Mm.
that. And but any of the new stuff I know nothing about, and I couldn't tell you. So that's something I don't do. Um,
So you like westerns and stuff like that? Would you say with John
oh
Wayne, or do you just like John Wayne
yeah,
himself? Yeah.
my first words as a kid were from a John Wayne movie.
Okay.
How about is that? I think they. I don't know if that's right. Or proper for a child.
Mm.
But yeah, that's what we had.
Awesome.
That was the
Awesome.
world to us. It's my parents are for my age are extremely old, right? And I have
Okay.
sisters and brothers. I have sisters and
Yeah.
brothers who I was raised with who are extremely old, and then so like
Mm.
kids I knew that were my age, their their parents were like my siblings' ages, which were
Okay.
old. So
Yeah.
I never I don't know why, but I had that mindset, right? So my whole, even
Mm.
as a young kid, I'd say, "Oh, look at these punk kids," and they'd be old, but they'd be kids,
Mm.
they'd be fucking off, but they'd be
Mm.
older than me.
Mm.
So I've always raised with that. But yeah, toys. That's one of the things I really dug about toys and stuff because it was so for the same reason everybody loves them, especially now, right? The escape and BOE always talks about going back to that time, when stuff was just like,
Nostalgia.
oh, the
Yeah.
nostalgia premium.
Yeah.
For me, I appreciate that. I understand that and appreciate it a lot, and I
Mm.
enjoyed my life, but there was always this thing of like, that's what people do, and that is cool, and it wasn't
Yeah.
as attainable, and so I enjoy it so much more now, you know,
Yeah.
and but yeah, it is cool, it is
So
cool to just.
do you have a grail piece then? Is there something that you want,
Oh
storyline wise or collecting wise,
man,
whatever that you really want and you would love to have
I
in your
have to
collection
say,
above anything
I
else?
I have a lot of Grail pieces that so many things. Man, I have a lot of Grail pieces. It's really hard. I was thinking about that the other day because that is a question that I didn't know you were going to ask. But that is a question most people ask, and a lot of people
Yeah.
have an answer.
Mm.
A lot of people
Yeah.
have an answer, and a lot of people scoff at answers. It's kind of like only naming one song of a band that you're wearing a T-shirt of. And
Yeah.
everybody knows like this guy. But there's just so many things. It's hard to, and I like so many eclectic. I have an eclectic taste, so it is
Yeah.
hard to nail down one. I always think one of the coolest things I have an autograph from Robin Williams
Oh
that
wow,
says,
wow,
yeah,
wow.
and it says to me, right? Like I didn't buy it.
Yeah,
One of my sisters actually was interviewing him and was able to, like get me to say, hey, like it was totally a freak thing.
yeah,
Uh, but it says, to my name, and so
yeah. That is
to
awesome.
to me, personalized, all any of my real Grail stuff would be probably stuff like that,
Yeah, yeah,
right? I can't think of an item, unless it's like, oh, this is patents, Colt
yeah,
45, right?
yeah,
Unless it's something like that, I can't think of like a product in a toy line unless it's like this signed by this person,
yeah.
who I think is great and who's probably gone now because
Mm,
most of the greats are.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, Grail item is extra. If you wanted to stand here long enough and say Grail item in a Star Wars thing,
yeah,
you could probably get a list out of me. But one thing, Grail item, I don't know, to just be successful and happy, like collection. I don't know. It's hard.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
so many. I just love so much different stuff.
I mean, I'm with you with autographs. I mean, I've had the opportunity to meet certain people and have get their autographs, and I've always managed to get them personalized. There's a couple that I haven't had personalized, but that's because I've seen him at a convention before and he signed something and personalized it then. But I've got him to sign like a figure box or something like that, and he's just put his name on it and stuff like that. Now, to me, I'm not going to sell that anyway, so I'm not going to make any money off it because I don't want to. I got that
Uh,
signed for me. I don't want to
right.
sell it off and give it to someone else. So it's people like Carrie Fisher. We me and my wife were fortunate to meet her, and she signed to us a picture and stuff like that. So we got her autograph, and then sadly she's passed away.
Hmm.
Mark Hamill's another one. So I guess if you're looking at, I suppose for me, a Grail in signings, it would be Harrison Ford, because then I
Yeah.
would have Kenny Baker, Anthony Daniels, all the main players from the
You'd have
Star
them
Wars,
all.
original Star Wars,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
apart from Alec Guinness. So Harrison Ford would be the one that we would need to complete that. So
Yeah.
I guess when I asked this question about rail pieces, I guess I don't look too deep into it. It's like, oh, so there's got to be something that you want above everything else. But like you said,
Right.
there's
Right.
so
I get
many
that.
different things, isn't there, that
Yeah.
you could,
See, I
do you
lived.
know
See,
what I
I
mean?
lived alone. I lived alone in the wilderness for a long time, so I will
Mm,
ponder, I guess. Uh,
yeah.
Grail piece off my head.
Mm.
That's probably not anything autographed by anybody
It
deceased
doesn't
from
have to be
Star
Star Wars.
Wars.
It doesn't have to be. It could
It
be
doesn't.
anything.
You know what I
Anything.
think would be the coolest thing that I would I don't want to say the word covet. That's terrible. The Great Spirit would be mad at you for that. I would
Mm.
truly, dearly think that like a sign autographed John Wayne cowboy hat that you can recognize from a movie he was in.
Wow.
I think
Yeah.
that would
I mean,
be
that's
the
yeah,
just
yeah,
the most. I think that would be the most righteous shit on the planet. This is not for
yeah,
kids. I know. I see your intro. I think that would in my lot in my world, and then
yeah.
from there, I would go to different people like that who
Mm.
in my life were like to me like, like man, like my dad is my hero, right? And so all the
Yeah.
people
Fair
I would
play.
name after that
Mm.
would be all these people who are totally my dad, all these old dudes like that, right? Like the John Waynes and the Steve McQueens and the Charles Bronsons and
Mm.
and the James Coburns and just I mean, shit, man, the Billy
Mm.
Jacks.
Yeah.
So the Grail pieces, I think that would be probably one of the most interesting things for me,
Okay.
you
So
know.
next question then. This might be a
Hmm.
little bit easier for you.
Hmm.
Might be. What is your most prized piece in your collection?
Oh. Hmm.
So if you like, you were sitting there and you think, oh shit, there's a hurricane coming, I've got to get something, and I'd take this bit, and it'd be the first bit that you grab. Obviously, apart
Right,
from your
right,
family.
right. I would definitely say the Robin Williams, as far as collection goes, like we're speaking of,
Yeah,
the Robin Williams autograph, you
that is
know.
awesome.
Uh,
Absolutely super. Yeah, awesome.
and 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 then after that, I have to say probably everything is fairly packable now and close. And I think about stuff like that because I've had that issue, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I can scoop stuff into a trunk and get it into a vehicle actually better than most people, I think, because it's bit me in
You've
the ass.
experienced that. Yeah, yeah.
Experienced it. My collection of things that I have a few other collections that I keep in my house, and even a couple things in the safe. They may not be
Mm,
super valuable monetarily, but
yeah.
that I would definitely get.
Listen,
Uh,
when I say about things, I, I when I say about collections and stuff like that, it doesn't have to be about money or what's it going to be worth in the future. A collection is personal to that person. Do you know
oh
what I mean?
yeah.
So
Mhm.
it could be anything. It could be like an old photograph. It could be, do you know what I mean? It's something of value, as in
Oh
like
yeah.
not monetary value, but
Oh,
personal
that's
value.
where
You
yeah,
know?
personal value. That's all there is, I think. In see, to me, I always think about prefacing it because to me, everything is about that. Like we said, when you're gone,
Mm,
all you can think about is your kids telling your grandkids, "Man, he was one."
yeah, yeah.
Enter in whatever you think is good there.
Mm,
But yeah, I have a few other collections that are definitely like stuff passed down that I'm fortunate enough to be caretaker of.
mm,
So I would have to get stuff like that. I actually have some my I have a grandmother that wasn't there was much more of a society person, but I
mm.
have a couple pieces of her furniture and and never gave a thought to it, never did anything. But when she passed away, people said, "Oh, well, we're just gonna toss this or do whatever or sell it or
Yeah,
whatever." And
yeah.
I thought about the few times I ever was there, and I thought, well, we did this, and she sat in that chair or whatever.
Mm.
And I thought, well, shit, I want that. That's not happening. What?
Yeah, yeah.
I will pay and put that in a storage unit, and that's the only thing in it. That's not happening.
Yeah.
And then that started me on a road of, well, what is that? Oh, that's cool. Oh, this is interesting. And it's just like collecting anything, Star Wars figures, your
Yeah,
Boba
yeah.
Fett Power of the Force with half circles, or blue
Yeah.
snake, a brown snake, trouser snake, orange snake. It's all this, right? So there's so much cool shit out there, and
Yeah.
so I have stuff like that too. I know our community is a little bit more about the toys. My Playmobiles, man, I've been hauling those around for a long time, and I wouldn't want to lose them now if I could.
Yeah,
I couldn't.
that's awesome. That's
So
awesome.
man, those have been around. 1974, I think, is the oldest one I can find.
Wow,
You know,
that's awesome.
and
So
so that
With your Playmobil, you say
yeah.
you collect is it just a certain genre of Playmobil do you collect, or do you like collecting like because they've got a lot of new stuff, haven't they? Like the A Team, Back to the Future.
See, no, I haven't gotten into that. See, I like the
That's not your
certain
cup of tea, no?
genre.
Yeah, yeah, no,
No.
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with
No,
that.
and like the A Team, cool show. You know why I watched the A Team though, or why I would have as a kid, or why I would is because George Papard is a cool dude.
Yeah, yeah,
Like Mr. T is cool and all that, and but I didn't watch it the first time for the A Team, right? I watched it the first time for George Papard.
wow,
Who was in I'm a big movie buff too, right? Because when we didn't have power, but then we got a generator, and of course we didn't have
yeah,
television, but you could have a TV and a VCR,
wow,
right? So movies, man, almost any movie between definitely 1960 and 1979, I could
mm.
probably give you some good info on it.
So
Probably.
what would be your favorite movie then? Would it be
Oh,
Western, or would it be something to do with like the Civil War and stuff like that? Or
I don't like many Civil War movies, to be honest with you, because I read too many books. I've read
okay,
too many independent books, so I
yeah,
get it. Sometimes it's all. Sometimes you're just like, man, I don't. You know what I mean? And I
yeah, yeah,
can't appreciate it. You can't appreciate it for entertainment or whatever. I
mm,
guess.
yeah,
I do. I truly love a good John Wayne movie.
okay,
I like. Not that he's the only cowboy. I could
yeah,
name off a bunch of man. There's a bunch before and after him that I could name
mm,
that nobody would know or remember, and that's okay. Uh, and I'll just say John. John. But westerns. growing up in an environment where that was still kind of real, everybody
Yeah.
had a wood stove. Everybody had a wood
Yeah.
stove. Everybody cut firewood. People had
Yeah.
sleds. And then when I became old enough, I went off and became a guide, a hunting guide. And we rode horses, which I was raised not doing that, but I learned real quick, and I did that for a while, quite a while.
Yeah.
So I became like and so to me, my whole life, that was a very realistic type of movie, a Western. It
Yeah.
really was, and I still love looking at. Me and somebody were talking the other day about movies, and I think we were talking about in general about Star Wars, But
Mm.
if you look at any kind of genre movie made between the '40s, even silent era, you can go all the way back, but nobody watches that anymore, right? But at least go back to the '60s, go back to the '50s, watch a Western, right? Go to
Yeah.
watch an episode of Gunsmoke. Start looking at all the things behind them, right? Look at the stove, and they have different types of stove, and different types of
Yeah.
stoves were made for different reasons. And look in the kitchen and see if you know what all those things are. That's a
Mm.
coffee mill, and that's and that's for sifting the flour, which nobody does because nobody bakes. So why would you know what that is, right? Oh, this,
Mm.
here's an apple core and a peeler, and like most people today, to really remember, that was a thing for me. Even being as a young guy, that was all real
Mm.
stuff. So I think that's why I had the biggest affinity for westerns. And my dad, man, my dad was John Wayne as he was in those movies. He was that, you know,
Yeah.
and nobody had, and so that of course is what you always want, not emulate in this, because emulate can be fake, but that's what you
Yeah.
truly wanted to be,
Yeah.
and that's what
Mm.
you were told to be, you know and of course I was actually from a time when a lot of that was definitely not popular, and it's not popular now, but
Mm.
man, more John Wayne movies in schools, because there's a lot of stuff in there you can't really disagree with. I can
Mm.
think a lot. We could get into, I guess, different arguments about different things, but the guy wants you to be honest, and protect the people who are defenseless and don't kick
Yeah.
dogs and stuff like. Man, that's heavy stuff.
Mm.
So,
What
to
did?
me, yeah, movies are cool, and yeah, westerns and anything in that genre. Like I hate to. It's music too. I love music. Music
Okay.
is I could, but anything between, and I guess it's because the people I was raised with, right? But anything between 1950 and 1979 is just gold, and I'm
Yeah.
there. Whether it's movies or music, uh, you know, um, somewhat into the toys and stuff, but movies and music, I'm there.
Mm.
And most somewhat pop culture. It's
Mm.
heavy into 50s and 60s pop culture, just because the people I'm raised with, and I'm like you. I love to talk to people,
Yeah.
and always raised around the old people. So that's what you want to do. You say, "Tell me about this.
Mm.
Tell me about that," because that thirst for knowledge.
Yeah. Definitely. What did you think of the movie Tombstone
Oh,
with Kurt Russell? I like.
it
I as a movie, I really enjoyed that. I thought
yeah,
they did well with that.
it was awesome. I don't
Mm.
think I don't think anybody can complain. Mm, I'm a big buff of that era. Even accuracy wise, nothing to really not disown it for. The real
Yeah.
shame about that movie, that's not really the shame of that movie. The shame of that movie, and it's not really its fault or its problem, but the shame of that situation is that the Wyatt Earp with Kevin Costner came out around the same time. Do you remember that?
Yeah. 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 I
Yeah,
do.
and that
Yeah.
gets no love and no respect, but it only is because it came out so close, I think, because of Tombstone. Because
Mm.
independent people compare stuff too much, you know. I
Yeah.
think they do, because that Kevin Costner Wyatt Earp was a solid banging movie too. And it
I'll
was
have to watch
definitely
that
much
properly
more.
then. Yeah.
What's that?
I said I'll have to watch that one properly because I've seen it, but I can't remember too much about it, so I'll have to rewatch that again.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm.
It's definitely slower, and it
Yeah.
is a little more accurate,
Okay.
so it's definitely more drama than action.
Mm.
So it's a different movie, I think,
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
uh
Mm.
but yeah, Tombstone was awesome. Val Kilmer, I'm not a fan. I am not a fan of Tom Cruise, right? So,
Okay.
so, so Val Kilmer in Top Gun was not the coolest dude in the world, right? Because
Yeah.
that movie's about Val Kilmer. That's a Val Kilmer movie. That's not a Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah.
But Val Kilmer in Tombstone, that was, I think, my first introduction, as far as I remember, as a kid watching
Yeah.
movies. That was the first time I knew who Val Kilmer was, and that
Wow.
was an amazing performance. All those
Yeah. Yeah.
guys,
Yeah.
and of course none of those guys really were legends then. Maybe Sam Elliott,
Yeah.
but Sam Elliott, he's not John Wayne.
No.
I like
No.
Sam Elliott, and I'd like to smoke a joint with him or do whatever Sam Elliott does, drink a beer. But you know, uh, Clint Eastwood, Clint Eastwood's cool cat, all that kind of stuff. But
Yep.
to me, it's kind of like when you're wearing the band's T-shirt and you only know the one song, right? Oh, I love the
Yeah.
Stones, man. Oh, what's your favorite song? I can't get any satisfaction. Oh, do you know any more? No.
No. Yeah.
Okay, so like Clint Eastwood was cool, and he was a cowboy a lot, and because of a generational thing, I think that's the only
Mm.
cowboy people mention, right? Everything is based
Yeah.
on that. Like all your Red Dead Redemption video game, everybody goes, oh yeah, Clint Eastwood, he's the premier cowboy. Well, if you only study cowboys that your dad told you about, and your dad was born in 1968,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe. I'm not a fan of spaghetti westerns. And I'm not. And the few spaghetti westerns that I think are amazing,
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood happens to not be in them. That's not his fault.
Oh
That's
wow.
not his fault.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
some great ones out there that are not him.
Wow.
That so I just if you that's the one thing that gets me with any kind of collecting. I like to dive in, and whether it's Star Wars, watching
Yeah.
it, or watching people on YouTube, when somebody stops there, I go, well, man, there's so much more. And music
Yeah.
too. People say, oh, I love Led Zeppelin. Cool, yeah, that is cool, and I love them too. But especially as a child, something a question like that comes up. I go, well, who did Led Zeppelin to listen to when they were a kid?
Yeah.
And then you think, oh wow, who's this Bo Diddley cat? Who's this guy? Because if you
Mm.
ask, Mick Jagger, who do you like? He goes, oh, Bo Diddley, man, Muddy Waters,
Mm.
man, and you go, wow, who's that? And then inevitably, after you've listened to every song or you've read every book in that genre of whatever you're doing, you go, okay, well,
Mm.
all right, who'd Muddy Waters listen to when he's a kid?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I'm always about that because knowledge is power, I guess, and then being raised like I was, like it's an oral tradition.
Mm.
And if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it. Just so there's a lot of time. So it's cool to learn
Well,
everything.
it seems a lot of people don't know the history because this current world we're living in, it seems to be, or to me, that people are continuing making the same mistakes. That's why we're having war. That's why we're having this, that, and the other. But we could go on all day about that. But what I'm going to do now is ask you the next question.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I will get preachy. Just please stop me.
no, so listen, no, it's fine, man. It's all right. What gives you that toy collecting buzz?
Oh, okay. What gives me the toy collecting buzz? A lot of the time, it's somebody who I really enjoy dropping a video featuring something that I don't remember or I do remember or I had. You know what I mean? Sometimes
Yeah,
that
yeah,
gets me going. Uh, or you know, anytime that there's an idea with a custom, that always leads to more collecting, right? Because
yeah.
most things start off as okay, I have one in the package, I have two in the package. Well, I need this for
Mm,
a custom. Oh, I better get another one now because I opened that. Because you need to have one figure open
yeah,
that's a stock, not been touched. Then you need one figure in the package. But then you
yeah.
probably need maybe six figures open for customs.
Mm,
And so it's kind of all collecting. So those two things get me the bug. Sometimes stuff just goes, the bug gets me and I go and get it for what it is.
yeah,
Somebody features a GI Joe boat that I remember that I had in a bathtub, as a kid at my grandmother's
yeah,
house. You know how, when you go to your grandmother's house, there's that other chest of toys that aren't your toys?
yeah, yeah.
a lot of cool toys were in that for me, because my grandmother lived like in a big city in the lower
Okay.
48, you know.
Yeah.
So that was a cool thing. So somebody has a feature like Super Awesome Geek show, John.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You love him as a cool dude. And there's so many. I don't want to leave anybody out because there is so many, but like he'll feature some badass thing that I remember was in
Yeah.
that chest, and I'll go, son of a gun, I gotta have. I would love to have that. I'd love to see that again. I'd love to have a picture of my kid, my little baby, in the bathtub with that boat.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That I remember having. Not that I would have a photo of it, but that's so that gives me the bug. It's all nostalgia all the way. Every once in a while, you see something or you look at something and you go, "Wow, that's a good deal. I should pick that up." And so you do, and you add it to your collection, and there may not, but that's why you did. You think, "Oh, that
Mm.
is cool," but it may not have that attachment. Like there's definitely lines of Star Wars that I think are good, and I like the characters, and I didn't have them, and I when I got older and started working, they might have come out, so I didn't even know they exist. And now
Mm.
I see like Boss Bounty feature one, and I go, holy shit, I've never seen that figure. And this is like from
Yeah.
2005, right? I mean, I've been in the
Wow.
woods a
Yeah.
while, people. So to me, it's almost all new. And so anything can give me the bug like that. It has to be YouTube mostly
Yeah.
because you have to get that memory jog. Um, and you give me the bug. Like I've been building a couple buildings. I've been building a shop for my father-in-law. I've been building this building that we're in
Okay.
now,
Yeah.
and this little building here is supposed to be for my collection. And this is and everything I have is like in a box or in a truck or on a
Yeah.
trailer. And I've been, how it is, procrastinating life, family, kids, job.
Yeah.
Uh, and then you call me up and you say, "Hey man, would you do this?" And I go, "Oh yeah, man." And then I think cool man, this stuff isn't worth nothing in the box. Let's take some pictures. Let's do
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
And then you spend way too long and you pull it out of the box and you probably haven't touched it in 7 years or something, some stuff.
Yeah.
Or you thought it was gone and you think, wow. And then you spend 15 minutes looking at it and go, oh, didn't that guy have a gun or something like that? What do I do? So anything, it's all I don't. Everything gives me the bug. Mostly YouTube and the community, which I think is just a awesome group of folks. Because like,
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
oh, look, I know I'm not. It took me a long time, but I ain't right. So people who don't like immediately block me in the message thing, they got to be pretty
Ah.
cool. You know. Because I don't know if you watch Salacious Rum. I'm gonna have to give a shout out to
Yeah.
the Funky Blizzard.
I've seen him. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you need to go. You need when you get a chance, whatever. Follow him, make it to a live, find him on Instagram. Tell because I told him I have no bashfulness, right? I will message a person,
Yeah.
and be like, hey man, I watch your stuff. I think you're cool. Happy Friday, or whatever. I don't. That's what it's for, right? And so many
Yeah.
other people
Definitely.
yeah, so many other people don't. They don't.
Mm.
They won't do anything, or they'll say, "Oh, nobody said anything." And I go, "Well, do they even? You gotta say something.
Well,
You say, "Hey,
talk,
man, what's up?"
talking to Salacious Farm. I need to get him on one of these.
Yes,
I will
yeah.
do that. I will message him. But it uh, it was
Hey, I
Tim that.
told them all, "You're great, man."
Oh, stop it! You make me blush, for goodness sake. Gee
Oh
whiz.
shucks, he
But
says.
yeah, oh
Oh,
shucks, I give you old shucks. But
uh,
so if it wasn't for Tim from Bosk's Bounty, after I did his episode, we had a chat and stuff like that, and he said that I was going about things wrong. I was asking him to contact me to get in, to come on the series,
right.
and he said, no, don't do that. He said, you want to go out and you want to reach out to people and ask them. I'm like, fine, and
Yeah,
that's why I asked you. I mean, listen,
yeah,
like I say, I like talking to people. I like finding out about people. Some people will call it nosy. They'd be right, but who gives a shit? But I just
right.
like hearing people's stories and stuff like that. And every one of you guys that I've spoken to so far has been enlightening in one way or another, or inspiring in one way or another. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I
absolutely
like
brilliant.
that too. That's what
Yeah,
it's all about. That's a whole. And if you
definitely.
ever I'll talk forever. I got a lot. I'm trying to write a book, but it's really
Oh
hard.
wow. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm trying to write a book, and so I don't know. It's really hard to do. But
It is. I'm sure.
oh yeah, and I
Definitely.
never
Yeah,
knew
yeah,
much about, ignorance is bliss. But you move to the lower 48, you meet people. I got a wife and kids now, and I
yeah.
tell my wife or just friends from down here. I go, yeah, yeah, this and this. I tell them a story, and they go, that's not right. They say, well,
Mm.
and I go, oh, what? That's not. You didn't do that either. So they told me. They said you need to write a book. I said, okay. So I'm working on it. The tales of.
Awesome.
But yeah, I'll talk with people all the time because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like you. I love it. I love it. I want to know anything because everything is knowledge, and it's all power.
yeah.
It's all
Definitely. And
power. Not power
knowledge
in an
is the
evil
bomb.
sense.
Knowledge is the bomb.
Yeah, it is. That's what we
Definitely.
all need. Yeah.
Right. We're coming up to the hour. Pretty much
All
just gone
right.
past the hour. So I've got one more question for you.
Yeah, yeah,
So
shoot. I'll talk with you for 2 hours, so you just kick me off whenever, because I
that
enjoy talking to you.
thank you very much, my man. So, what does your collection mean to you? And I don't just mean your toys. I mean, you've got your swords and you've got other things as well that you collect. So, the whole bang my speaker, Mike. Back the whole shebang. What
Mm.
does your collection mean to you?
The whole shebang is definitely, to me, it represents a nostalgia
Yeah.
for a multitude of things, not just child things.
Mm.
Not to sound, but not just being a child. Yeah, even if it is toy related things. Um, it means still to me in a way it is knowledge, and I think that to me is what really when somebody shows me, hey, look at this thing that I'm so into that I have this many things of, whether it's books or whatever it is, right? Like that's the telling me that you have the knowledge of it. And
Mm.
so my collection to me, and that's just how I interpret it, right? I've realized that I'm completely wrong about people when I think that, right? Because you could say, oh, you could go to their collection, you go, oh, who's this guy? And they go, I
Yeah.
really don't know. He's number 5 in the line, and yeah, I get them all, which is cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
But learning that was a shock to me because I just look at things, you can only look at things the way you look at it until you realize, that's so,
Yeah.
which I don't do in a hard nosed way. I know I can be wrong, but so to me, my collection is definitely knowledge, and that's one of the prides of it. When somebody walks in, and they say, "That's a really cool widget," antique firearm, antique chair, whatever it is, right? Uh, then we get to talk about it, and then we get to understand
Awesome.
why. Yeah, why is it cool? Why are you
Mm.
drawn to it? And then even figures. We talk about like craftsmanship. You go, oh, this is a
Yeah.
good sculpt. This is a great
Yeah.
sculpt. I've always been a sculpt. Power of the Force to me is still some of the great, not all of them, still some of the greatest stuff because of that. Sculpts are
Yeah. Yeah.
great. Articulation does not mean everything to me in a figure, but I'm like
Okay.
I don't know if I call it dioramas, but like I'm a display guy ever since I was a
Yeah.
kid. Whenever I had the chance, all my stuff looked like a museum.
Yeah.
That's what my whole any area that was mine, the walls, the tables, everything was museum. And it
Awesome.
was and I could, when my parents' friends would come eat dinner, I could take them to my room and say, and this is and I would, because I was weird. So collection to me is knowledge, and love of something, you know,
That is awesome.
knowledge and love.
Yeah.
It has to
See,
be the
you're the first person that said that. I mean,
really.
as in with the knowledge and the love is concerned. Everybody, they. So, but yeah. Well,
Oh, that's got to be it, man. I mean, that's
that is
got to
yeah.
be what we're in it for. Everybody who says I'm not in it for the money or whatever, man, and that's what it is. It's knowledge and love, and
Mm,
I want you
awesome.
to say, man, because that's what I'll ask you, right? I look at something in your collection and I'll think, wow, I've never seen that. What is that? And I totally want you, when I say, dude, what is that? I want you to say, man, this is a 1948 GMC Suburban, has the split front windshield, flathead 6 cylinder. Like I that because that's why I
Yeah.
asked. That's why I
Yeah.
asked.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, so yeah, knowledge and love is the collection, no matter
Awesome.
what it is. We want to have a lot of children. We want to collect babies. We want to collect this. We want to collect money to provide for them, for knowledge and love, to make them powerful
Awesome.
and successful. And our collections are the same. Absolutely.
Well, Lak, on that note, we shall
Yes,
leave it
sir.
on knowledge and love. We've come to
Yeah.
the end of the chat. So, just quickly, where can people find you on social media? Because what I'll do is when
I
this goes up, I shall put your
Yeah.
social media links in the description below.
Excellent, excellent. I am on YouTube. I have a channel on YouTube. LAK Sivrak is the name of it. And I'm also
Okay.
on Instagram. The name is also LAK Sivrak. And they both
Awesome.
have the LAK Sivrak um, picture icon. LAK
Awesome
Sivrak, the
stuff.
greatest Star
The
Wars
greatest.
hero
I
of all time.
just quickly, why LAK Sivrak? Because you hardly see him in the film. Just out of interest.
When
He's
I
just
was a kid, I've totally talked too much because we're at an hour. But I'll tell you one thing: it's the same reason that we all at one point, because not all of us do now, loved Boba Fett, and it's the same reason that a lot of us think, like when you look at Dengar, you think, wow, that motherfucker is probably badass, right? The
yeah, yeah.
mystery of it, the mystery of it. And
Ah,
so, but when I
yeah.
was a kid, and I watched Star Wars for the first time, which I don't think I watched them in order necessarily, but that's okay because I don't remember it. But forever and eternity, the Wolfman was man. I bet you that in the bar, you'd think, boy, that guy. I don't think I'd mess with that guy. So like Sivrak was always the cool. And then when they had the
Wow.
special editions, when the special editions came out in what, 97,
Yeah,
they put some lame. Don't
yeah.
get me started because I'll start cussing like a sailor. They put some lame ass CGI baloney, which if they wouldn't have done that, the love for LAK Sivrak may have not bloomed, but it was just blasphemous.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just think, why would
Well,
you
there you
do
are.
that? Yeah,
Well,
so yeah, LAK
now we
Sivrak,
know. Now we know.
he's just, man, the mystery of it. Not to drag on for too, but I have to say that was and for me it's LAK Sivrak and Dengar, and
Yeah.
Dengar, to me, I always thought, wow, that should have been played by John Wayne or something, right? Because that I can't remember that actor's name, but like I'm the kind of person that will look at that and be like, who played that guy? And then I look at other
Yeah.
movies and like, oh, he's like a bare knuckle boxer, and
Oh,
you
wow.
because you go, wow,
Yeah.
that guy's a bad mother, right? Uh, but that was the thing with Boba Fett, right? Boba Fett, or whatever his name is. He was that unexplained badass, and I still always thought Dengar was probably tougher, but that's
Yeah.
why we loved Boba Fett. He was the mysterious,
Indeed.
and then you flesh it out, and then it's not cool. And same thing with Vader. He's scary. You flesh him out, he's not cool. So they must be doing it on purpose. They don't want him to be cool because they have to push their own. I'm talking about Disney being they. They have to push their own
Yes.
characters,
Yes. We could go.
which is
That's a whole other ballpark, isn't it?
right. Which I hate, but I don't own Disney, so that's
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, LAK Sivrak, man. He's the if anybody's selling any LAK Sivrak Power of the Force 2 figures, please let me know. I'm on a mission to acquire more all of them on Earth.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, LAK Sivrak, that has come to the end of the interview, my friend. It has been fascinating talking to you. It
I
really has.
appreciate it.
Really appreciate you coming on the channel, my man. So, like I said, I will put your links to your YouTube and Instagram in the description below when this goes up. So, yeah, absolutely awesome. Guys, all that's left to say is thanks for watching, and we shall see you in the next episode. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Stu.